to talk about our nation and to deliver a speech that I believe that the Ugandans will find a solution out of it. Many people have spoken and many people have presented themselves, but I'm here to present the truth that I know, that this is what will heal this nation. Political parties are not the solution or the answer to this nation. Good manifestos are not the answer to this nation. Character assassination is not the answer to this nation. Wealth or finances are not the answer to this nation. There is only one answer and solution to this nation, and that is God. God is the only solution to this nation. And because of that, I carry an ideology that I believe once we use that ideology, or once we form up our government basing on that ideology, then everything will settle. And that ideology is love based on the fear of God. When someone has the love of God in them, there are certain things that are happening today in our nation that will not happen if they have that love of God in them. And if they have a fear of God in them, still there are certain things they won't do because they have the fear of God in them. Many things have been presented as the solution, but they are not the solution to this nation and to our continent, Africa. God is the only solution to this nation, and the love based on the fear of God is the only solution to this nation. The love that reconciles, the love that forgives, the love that defends, the love that honors, the love that cares about our neighbors. That is what we need. We do not need anything that is going to cause anger in our supporters or in this nation or on the continent of Africa. We need leaders who are going to come, and when they speak, life comes out of them. And when they speak, unit comes out of them. And when reconciliation comes out of them. Not leaders, after speaking, cause a certain wave that is not right for our nation and for this continent of Africa. So we believe once we focus on God, once we remember God. I've been on different media platforms, and the issue I didn't want to hear about was the issue of God in politics. But I want to tell you, fellow Ugandans and the continent of Africa, that the time has come for this nation and for the continent of Africa to run to God as the only solution for this nation and for this continent. For with God, everything is possible. With God, we will find the next route for this nation and for this continent. For He knows where we're heading to. For so long, we followed the mind of man. But the time has come for us to follow the mind of God. Only God knows where we're heading to. And only a leader who can listen to the voice of God, and only a leader who can follow the instructions of God will be a good leader. For in Proverbs 29 verse 2, the Bible says that a righteous leader, when he rules, people rejoice. But when the wicked comes into power, people mourn. You cannot tell whether that person is a righteous leader or is a wicked leader. But once they're in power, everything will come out. So I'm speaking to the Ugandans that we are at a crucial moment in our history. We're moving forward into the next phase whereby Uganda is supposed to take her rightful place among the nations of the earth. So I'm calling upon Ugandans to vote era of love. We want Uganda this time to receive a birth that is out of love, not out of war, not out of hatred, not out of competition, not out of self-seeking, but out of love. When we do that, we will not fail. When we do that, we will be able to preserve what has been done at this moment, and we will be able to take on the best of the nation, of this nation, or the best plans that this nation has, and then we will take them forward, and our children will have a better future. It is time to believe in ourselves. It is time to work together. It is time to mean God at the heart and not at the lips. Many people speak about God, but the God they speak about is at the lip. But this time we want leaders who will speak about God from their hearts. That what they are speaking and what they are promising is what they will do. That is the only answer that we need. A leader who will follow the mind of God. Not a leader who is going to follow the mind of man. The mind of man will always bring us to a failing point. The mind of God will always bring us to a disappointing point. But the mind of God will not bring us to that point. As our motto is, for God and my country. Let us mean that out of our hearts. Let us have leaders at all levels who fear and honor God. Not leaders who just talk about God. And I'm here to encourage every Ugandan, wherever you are. Before you look at a few of us who are up here, you have a part to play concerning the future of this nation. You as a family at home, if you don't cooperate, if you don't love your relative, if you can't help your neighbor, if you help your neighbor as if you're helping a stranger, instead of helping them as if you're helping your fellow brother or your fellow African, then that means we will not be able to receive the hope we're looking at.
Determination and insistence, although yesterday you had a slight glitch, still you are determined and you came back. Thank you. Since you are coming as an independent, I would request you to step forward to identify the symbol which you intend to adopt for these elections. Please come forward, Aspirant Nancy. Comfort, can step over. You can select those which are still available, where there are no entries. Can you touch it? Which one? Touch it. Can touch it. Okay, the ball. Thank you. You can take your seat.
Whatever we want to do. So I'm calling upon Ugandans to be able to vote. Our sign is the radio. So we're going to make sure that we speak to everyone in every corner of Uganda to hear this message of era of love based on the fear of God. God bless you. So let me also speak in Luganda. Bannayuganda, nebaza Katonda ekisookera ddala atutuusizza mu kifo kino. Kitulaze nti Katonda akuuma ekigambo kye, nti era mazima ajja kukuuma n'ebigambo ebirala by'azze atugamba eri eggwanga n'eri buli muntu yenna. Nzize okwogera gye muli era nga ngenda kwogera amazima gye muli. That ekyokuddamu kya Uganda tekiri mu bibiina bya bufuzi. Ekyokuddamu kya Uganda tekiri mu bantu. Ekyokuddamu kya Uganda tekiri mu manifesto nnungi. Ekyokuddamu kya Uganda tekiri nti ebyansimbi oba bikoze bitya. N'ekyokuddamu kya Uganda kiri mu kutya Katonda oba mu kwagala okusinziira ku kutya Katonda. Twebaza Mukama olw'enkuba eno eraga akabonero nti waliwo entandikwa empya eri eggwanga lyaffe Uganda. Enkuba kabonero ka mukisa era tukkiriza nti waliwo entandikwa etandise empya nga bwe ndi omusajja omusumba anzikiriza era mpita buli omu atya Katonda okutwegatta.
Well, thank you so much and welcome back again. That is Fred Mwesige, duly nominated there to also run for the presidency in 2021. He rides on the ideology of a love based on the fear of God. As you heard him, it is riding in Chambogo. For those of you who are just watching TV from wherever you are, that is what is actually happening. Now, Fred Mwesige becomes the other candidate to the duly nominate. Now, that brings the number 2, 9, as we can now get to counting. And Nancy Linda Kalembe has also gone through because she's been asked to pick a symbol as an independent candidate for which she will use in these elections. Now, even the two that away bounced or bangled yesterday bounced back today to actually also follow it up there. As Fred Mwesige duly nominates to also be in the race for 2021. Yes, in Dugwa call. Speak to me about what is happening and, of course, what you are seeing playing out now.
You know, initially when we had the name Fred Mwesige, our mind went to the current member of parliament for Nyabushozi. And I mean, that is the Fred Mwesige people know. But of course now, here he is, and as a pastor, I think the fact that he's reminding us that, look here, in everything you do, you need God's favor. This takes us back to the founders of this country, that when they chose the motto, it was for God and my country. When you look at our anthem, "O Uganda, may God uphold thee." So showing that really Uganda is a God-fearing country, and in whatever we do, we must always have God in mind. True, what he is saying is right, that in everything you're doing, you need God's favor, because if you fall short of God's favor, then you may not lead or you may not do anything successfully. But also we see candidate Nancy Kalembe really coming out, and I think this time around she's successful because they are saying she should come, and the last time, the last time she was on screen was saying when they are telling her to come and choose a symbol she is going to use. So this gives us one constant factor since 2006. Since 2006, we've had one female presidential candidate, starting with Mama Miri Obote. Then we came to Uganda Federal Alliance in
2011, Betty Kamya.
Last time we had Maureen Charlia, and now we are having Nancy.
She's the fourth woman member of parliament in all the multi-party elections that we've had so far.
No, not only multi-party, all elections we've had.
All elections.
Yes, she's the fourth woman. Because in every election we've had a woman since 2006. The first woman actually to contest was in 2006. That is Mama Miri Obote. Before we've never had.
But that's when we actually went into multi-party.
Yes.
The multi-party elections.
But they had a choice also to stand.
That's what I'm saying. But in the multi-party setting, because this is the fourth multi-party
election,
and I think it's Charlie and now Linda who do not come with parties.
Yes.
Mama Miri came under UPC, and Betty Kamya came under Uganda Federal Alliance in 2011. Just about. Well, that's where we are today, and of course we continue to just build on the debate to see what will happen and plays out. And I think we also need to get some time and look into into actually the speeches that we've had from these candidates, the nominated candidates today. And I think from the ratings here, Bob Wine is not performing very well in as far as the speeches are concerned so far. You can hear men are speaking very passionately from their own heart of hearts in there, and I think well, there's a lot of things that we're going to hear or listen to when the campaigns are fully blown out, therefore rush to get through. Are you seeing the shape of the campaigns now when all this is done?
Today actually puts on notice the speechwriter of Bobi Wine. So if there's anyone who is actually handling his public relations, they should up their game. Like Waswahili say, hasira hasara. He comes with that anger and eventually has spoiled it all. So he needs to compose himself because he should know that not everybody in the system is an enemy. You get it? Not everybody in the system is an enemy. Besides, actually, you have to pull them from that side. Because now look here, from 1996, President Museveni has had a constant of 60% votes and above. Now, if you want to attract a portion from that 60%, you should sweet talk them. Just like the Waswahili say, maneno matamu mtoa nyoka pangoni. You get it? So you should sweet talk them. But when you start really threatening, again, you're scaring them away. That means you're not even helping the opposition. But also in this particular election, especially to do with candidate Nase Kalembe, it gives us one serious constant factor that under the NRM leadership or under the NRM regime, the women from Busoga have actually shined. The first vice president of this country, female woman vice president, was Msoga, Dr. Species The first speaker, Rebecca Litwala Kadaga. The first woman secretary general of the ruling party, Kasule Lumumba. So the IGG, still you see Busoga. The other time we had Charlie, and now we have Nasa Kalembe.
Hold it there. Let's listen to what I beg you, but you talked about the IGG, so I was going to say the IGG. Well, let's get to Justice Yabakaba here, the presiding officer, and hear from him.
In respect of the presidential elections 2021, having fulfilled the nomination requirements under the Presidential Elections Act 2005 as amended. As a duly nominated candidate, you will be required to observe the following. 1, you have to appoint an official agent who will coordinate your campaign meetings and media program and also attend meetings on your behalf where necessary. Secondly, you have to avail the Commission with a schedule of your campaign meetings and media program as soon as practicable to facilitate the smooth harmonization of all the candidates' campaign programs countrywide. Thirdly, you have to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Electoral Commission on compliance with the harmonized campaign program and adherence to the campaign guidelines, including the COVID-19 standard operating procedures. We also urge you to restrain your supporters from gathering in large numbers as you pass through the various routes and avoid holding processions along the roads in order not to expose our people to the spread of the virus. Congratulations, you are now a presidential candidate, Nancy. Will you step forward and I hand over to you the formal declaration together with your original documents. They are not original. No, take it. The original. Now, next item, Nancy, we are going to hand over to you the security vehicle and the security detail or personnel who will be moving with you for your safety and protection wherever you are going in any part of the country to ensure that you are safe. Thank you.
question back from that nomination. And now I invite protocol.
My name is Nancy Kalembe, the daughter of the Most High God. Today is a beautiful day. Standing here before you, I'm hopeful that Uganda is ready for their first female commander-in-chief and their very first female president. I want to thank you all for all your support. It is impossible to get here on my own, but you, my brothers and sisters, Ugandans within and without, in whatever capacity you are in, I thank you. There are those who have been there for me physically. There are those who have been with us in spirit. There are those who have stood with us emotionally, financially, socially. I thank you. May God bless you. I've been asked a particular question several times. What should Uganda expect from my leadership? 3 things. 1, great leadership. Not good leadership, but great leadership. Leadership that is inseparable from integrity. Leadership that is all-inclusive of all the great nations in this country, Uganda. There are 56 of them. That is why our mission is to the 56 tribes of this nation. And our slogan is, leaving no one behind. Our leadership will be accountable and open. The second thing that Ugandans should expect from us is a leadership that is future-focused. This time, we will not dwell so much on what has happened, because history is there for us to learn lessons so that we can improve the present and plan very well for the future. So we will be future-focused, harnessing future technologies and future knowledge. The third thing is, Uganda will finally have global presence, not as a third world nation, not as an underdog, not just as another African country, but a country that is going to remember its identity, a country that is going to remember and understand what they are made of and who they are. We are blessed greatly. That is why a visitor many years ago called this the Pearl of Africa. We intend, in my government, to ensure that this global recognition is not only on the outside, but work will be done on the inside, because it will be inclusive. We intend to harness every God-given gift in this land, not only what is below the ground, but what is on the surface, the human resource, as well as what is above us. We intend to utilize this through a unified approach, with inclusiveness in the usage of every God-given gift in this land. We intend to focus on unity so that Ugandans can start to say, I am Ugandan, wherever they go, proudly. I hope that answers that question that I've been asked several times. What should Ugandans expect from my leadership? On several occasions, I've spoken about 4 things: leadership, health, education, and the economy. I've spoken about leadership as I was starting. I will move to the health as one of the major sectors in our country because it touches every life. You see, health begins way before you are made in the womb. And yet several times, the careers of the womb are forgotten, are treated like second-class citizens. Today, I would like to encourage every girl child and every woman to know that several glass ceilings have been broken. This is just another one. But we're not going to focus on the Me Too card that women also have gotten here. We're going to focus on work. When we discuss health, we need to discuss the foundational issues. The human resource. I think this is dripping. We need to discuss the human resource, their welfare. Because how absurd it would be if, if we have beautiful hospitals and yet they're empty on the inside. We need to discuss the issue of human resource. I speak about the human resource in our medical sector, in our health sector, not because of head knowledge, but because of experience. You see, I was born of such a woman who served in the health sector. They give their lives to save ours. Some of them have to stand in operating rooms for over 20 hours. This is humanly impossible. But these men and women in the health sector have shown us that it is possible every time and again with one driving force: the survival of those for whom they sacrifice day and night. We will also focus on the medication. Some work has been done, but more needs to be done. There's still a lot to be desired. Case in point, when the COVID pandemic started, we had prophecies that if this virus has swept Europe and America, the first world countries, how much more will it do to Africa? I remember friends of mine and I said, we've heard that some people trust their chariots and horses, but we will trust God to protect Africa. You see, when they were making such pronouncements, they forgot what the African being is made of. This is the cradleland of mankind, and therefore we are strong. And getting this far with this pandemic, we only thank God that it has not caused devastation as it was expected. We will also handle the infrastructure. We've seen hospitals in other countries being built in 10 days. Their blood is red like ours. What is the difference? Our hospitals and our infrastructure in different sectors take years. We will have to change that together, because it all begins with identity. When Ugandans remember who they are, corruption will become history. The other issue I'd like to address today is our education system. I went through it, and many of us sitting here today have gone through it. It had its pluses and its negatives. However, in this day and age, it needs to be overhauled. I have promised time and time again that when I am president of this nation, our education system will be overhauled. I like to talk a lot about foundations. When most people talk about overhauling an education system, we quickly think about the syllabus. But there is more to that. Every challenge, every problem, every existing barrier has a beginning and has a foundation. And in our education sector, we happen to have the teachers. When we are leaving senior 6, you're told to make choices. And several people make all choices of their desire and put education last. And yet, if you want to destroy a society, undervalue the teacher, my government will change that. Because that is where we start. As children, however learned you are, you pass through the delicate hands of a teacher. We will dwell so much on their welfare so that their dignity is given back to them. Education will no longer be a fourth choice, but it will be treated as a calling, as a vocation for these great men and women who stand before us day and night, breathing in the chalk dust. The second thing after the teacher's welfare that we will handle, because we are dealing with foundations, it will be the early development centers, because our education dies in the foundational stages because it has not been dealt with. In the interest of time, I'll go quickly to the economy. Ugandans have cried about poverty and lack of jobs, especially the two biggest populations in this country, the youth and the women. We have 4 tools. I will not go into details right now, but I will mention them here. We have 4 tools that we would like to use to change not been viewed as a form of employment.
We have verified their papers and everything seems to be okay. And therefore, I, Justice Byabakama Mugenyi Simon, being the returning officer for the nomination of presidential candidates, declare you, Kabuleta Kiiza Joseph, the duly nominated candidate in respect of the presidential elections 2021, having fulfilled the nomination requirements under the Presidential Elections Act 2005 as amended. As a duly nominated candidate, you are required to observe the following. 1. You are to appoint an official agent who will coordinate your campaign meetings and media programs and also attend meetings on your behalf where necessary. Secondly, you are to avail the Commission with a schedule of your campaign meetings and media program as soon as practicable to facilitate the smooth harmonization of all the candidates' campaign programs countrywide. Thirdly, you are to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Electoral Commission on compliance with the harmonized campaign program and adherence to the campaign guidelines, including the COVID-19 standard operating procedures. We also urge you to refrain from luring or inciting your supporters to gather in large numbers, particularly at trading centers, roadsides, come out of the roof of your vehicle and wave to all and sundry that attracts the large crowds of people, and we are living the COVID pandemic. We will put in place all these measures to ensure that you are secured from contracting the virus and also your support. Now a presidential candidate, Kiiza Kabuleta. Please step forward and have the formal declaration handed over to you. Thank you. Finance. Congratulations. Next item, Joseph, we are required to provide you with the security vehicle, security personnel as you move along the route or along the roads of Uganda looking for votes. You should be guarded. Even at your home, you will have 4 security guards. You are supposed to be under 24-hour protection. You are an important person to the state. You are therefore our responsibility to guard you. We are going to hand over the vehicle to you as the next ceremony. Thank you very much.
Joseph Sectoral will join the Electoral Commission in the parking yard for the handover, and thereafter a press briefing as guided by protocol.
journey that I know the end of. And in spite of all the hardships that have been created, because because of fear and all the things that we've had to get through even to come to this place, I am hopeful, not so much in the process. And you see, that's the thing. So many people say, if you know the process is not fair, then why do you go there? But then I would want such cynics to give us an alternative that is better than this. More than anything else, I have a message which I have to give to the people of this country. And now I have a platform. And now I'm going to tell the people of this nation that there is a much better future for them, where the resources of this nation do not belong to one family and their, but nation, is that deliberate? Do not belong to one family and their hunger zone, but belong to all of us. And I want every person in this nation to get themselves involved in the real conversation that matters, and that is the economic conversation, because there's been a lot of talk about all sorts of politics, and I'm sure the incumbent likes it that way because he has a charge over that. But of course, he heads a system that requires him to go and play the politics, even as the people around him, most of them relatives, friends, and in-laws, strip this nation of its resources. So that is the war that we are going to fight, and it's a war of minds. It's not a war that is, and the incumbent doesn't know how to fight. He knows how to fight other wars. He survives off them. He lives off them. He even creates them. Shut down here and listen to somebody talking about COVID, using the so-called pandemic, and I mean that deliberately, the so-called pandemic, to kill a democratic process and an excuse to carry on with his despotic ways using a pandemic. And yet we have bigger issues, even health-wise, a lot bigger issues than this virus will ever be, which, by the way, even in world statistics, 99.98 people who get it get cured of it. So imagine a nation that loses close to 20 people every day from malaria, and that is poverty, and loses 18 people every day from women giving birth. And we are concerning ourselves with a virus whose deaths have to be manufactured. Somebody has been sick of so many things, then he dies and they test the body and they say he had COVID, so he died of COVID. No, he did not die of COVID. So we have real problems which we have to address. But the first real problem is the issue of financial liberation, and the issue that is so key, because there is a reason why there has been an intentional design by this government to impoverish everybody, because they know money is the means by which they propagate themselves if they are the only ones who have it. Now, of course, when people get money and get into the middle class, then now you have to speak to their minds rather than to their miserly pockets, and then that is something that he finds very difficult to do. So there are just a few things I'm going to say here, and the first few days of my administration, and it is going to be that way, by the way, are going to be about some kind of affirmative action, reversing things that have been done throughout the 35 years. First of all, reversing the impoverishing, the deliberate impoverishing of Ugandans. And there are people who say, who want to associate what I'm saying. Am I still on? Okay? There are people who would want to associate what I'm saying with economy. Now, those are big words which so many Ugandans don't even know about. But what we are saying here is money in people's pockets. And that is the key thing for which I come, and that's not something that I just speak. I know exactly how I'm going to do it, and I know exactly how I'm going to do it for each and every region of this country. Now I'm telling you the what. When I launch my manifesto in a short while, I'll tell you the how, because so many people ask, how can you do this? And there is a very easy how. Now, in order to understand how we came to this place where people are at such depth of desperation, you have to know that to understand the whole issue of financial liberation, you have to first come to the realization, and some people struggle to get there, that Uganda is not an economy. It's just a family business. The rest of us are at best a market, at worst slaves. Now, we have to turn that, our nation. That's why my group is called Reclaiming Our Country. Because that country has been taken away. Even those people, they will get the wealth of this country and pass it on to foreigners rather than give it to the people of this country. Even what is left from what they plunder, they will still give it to foreigners. They are the ones who will come here and get rich when indigenous people are the ones getting poor. So now, the first thing I told you is money in people's pockets, and you will see me in your wallets. After your vote, the next time you'll see me is in your wallet when you see an earthquake in your wallet, and you know that I'm around that place. Even if you can't see me physically, every time you see a wallet bulge, you know I'm around there. The second thing is to turn the country back away from foreign control to local indigenous control, where people who are born here have feel that they have a privilege in this country, rather than feel that they will be slaves in this country to foreigners. And yet, when they step out of this country, they are slaves anyway. When they come back here, because of the leadership that we have rather, which intends to keep it that way, because you know, the whole principle of poor people are easier to govern. So they will catch wealth and give it to foreigners, and you know, so the so-called foreign investors and so on. So now, the first thing is money in the pockets. The second thing is making sure that we reclaim every aspect of our country, starting with the wealth, but also with the a lot of the things, the decision making, reclaiming our democracy, reclaiming the man of, decision making. Because I'll give you an example. Because if you look at what has been happening over these past years, and here is where I talk about affirmative action. We've had a scenario where now, as we speak right now, all power in this country is vested in the office of one old, frail despot. All power is vested in his office. Now, the first thing we do when we get in power is to divest that power away from there and make sure that different arms of government have power, but even different people, decision makers at different levels. Because local governments were killed long time ago, parliament is virtually useless, they pass a budget without, and I don't say that meaning that there is anything wrong with the parliamentarians. They are just people caught up in a bogus system. So they also, the judiciary is also messed up. Them also, I don't blame them that much. They are people caught up in a bogus system. Now we have to construct the system before we can start saying or demanding anything of these people. Now that is what we are here to do. And by the way, believe me, it is going to be done. Because, you know, I do not subscribe to the cynical thinkers. You know, cynicism is an escape route that has only fleeting benefits. You become cynical, you're wasting your time, everybody knows who is going to win the election. No, they don't. They don't even know if the person they think is going to win it is going to be alive at the time the elections are announced. So don't think anybody knows who is going to win the elections. Now, don't carry the cynical approach of what's the point in me going to vote if I know who is going to win the election. Please do not. And thirdly, understand that we want this election to be about issues. This is why I am here. It is going to be about exact issues, issues that are of importance to us. And now we have a choice, either to choose to go down this COVID path. We'll still be talking about COVID 1 year from now, as long as Museveni needs it to impose restrictions on people. But now, if somebody wants to have life the way it was, where woke up and went to churches, woke up and went, those who wanted to bars, to discotheques and so on, without having the whole specter of police brutality hovering over us in the name of a certain virus which kills, whose deaths have only have to be manufactured all along, you know, and who people are being paid money to say your people died of COVID, and that's the truth. So now here is the thing. We have a choice of getting back to liberty, and where we do not use excuses of viruses. People are free to go and, you know, pray, to go and do everything that they want. But also, we need a truly godly leadership. And that's what I stand here presenting, a truly godly leadership, a leadership of somebody who fears God. Now what we are having is a leadership of people who will be in parliament and they bring for them a head of a young kid because they are sacrificing children to be back in government. Now I'm here to tell them that my standing on this pulpit is the end of that kind of politics of sacrificing people to be in power. Now we are here to declare a godly reign, a reign of God, and I am going to get in power purely by the blessing and the grace of God. And the only sacrifice I know about was the sacrifice which was made for me 2,000 years ago when God sent his son and he died on the cross for me. That is the only blood that is going to be shed. Now these leaders who are sacrificing human beings and so on because they want to be in power, their time has come to an end. Now when Kabuleta, Pastor Joseph Kabuleta stands here, just know that that is the end of that reign. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the scripture says. Now, not these leaders who are taking us to Bachwezi and taking us to witchcraft and so on. That is coming to an end and their time is up. And the thing is, they know it. That's why they have put up all these, things out of fear. But they know it. They know their time is up. And when God arises, as he is now, his enemies are going to be scattered. And now God is arising in me. And watch and see his enemies scattered. Even those who pretend to be godly, but they are not. Watch and see how they scatter and how we get to a purely godly leadership. And I mean leadership of people who fear God, regardless of their faith, regardless of their doctrine, but people who fear God. And whatever religion they pursue, we all respect all religions. And this is the dawn that we stand here today, the dawn when this nation is finally going to be blessed, because we cannot be voting leaders who are cutting off heads of children and we expect God to bless our country. It is not going to happen. Now, but when Kabuleta stands up and leads by the grace and the power of God, then blessed will be Uganda, because our God will be the real God and not those small gods whom our leaders and the people around them subscribe to and pay lip service to, so-called religious people and pay them lip service. Now, we are not here to pay lip service. We are here to speak about the dawn where the Lord is God, and we are a God-fearing nation, and we shall lead accordingly, and we shall guide this nation accordingly, and we shall stand up and be counted as people who stand up for religious freedom, and not a scenario that we've had here where for so many months churches are closed, but witch doctors' shrines are open. I have not had anybody closing witch doctors' shrines because the leaders have to go there. But we who go and worship God in church have been stopped from worshiping in the name of a virus. Now, either we go down that road of despair and despondency and fear and all sorts of despotic tendencies and authoritarianism and a police state where policemen do anything without any form of restraint, or we choose the path of the fear of God, the path of Joseph Kabuleta, the path of somebody who stands here and says, blessed is Uganda, because we are going to have a godly leader, and you are looking at him right now. Thank you very much.
And of course, that's the last candidate for the day, candidate Kiiza Kabuleta, Joseph, an independent candidate also duly nominated. Now, those nominated, in total, 11 of those, we've still not hit the Tanzanian mark. Tanzania had 15, all of them had political parties. We have 11, and only 4 have political parties. 4 or 5? We have 5 political parties. 5 political parties: NRM, DP, FDC, NUP, and ANT, 5 political parties and 6 independents. And of course, we are now just waiting to hear from the Electoral Commission, the returning officer, Justice Yengibi Abakama, who is coming to give us a wrap-up of officially, they still have an extra 50 minutes from now because the exercise ends at 5 o'clock. That's on assumption that there is actually one who is coming on to possibly try it out. But here is where we go. Candidate Kabuleta has nominated, and to me, I just felt like the script writer or the speech writer for candidate Kabuleta and Senator Mchagulanyi could have actually, I think she had ideas in a way. Did you guys understand Kabuleta, the pastor? Did you understand him, Mututa? I don't think I actually understood.
I was all the time listening to
Kabuleta.
What he was saying. Of course, Kabuleta is my hobby. We were in the same time at the university in Makerere. But like I had known, I think I was not expecting anything better or worse than what he presented. Because I could tell that even before. But now what comes back is that in his statements, he seemed to be contradicting. And sometimes this is what we tell people, and for political actors. You may think that you have the best option, you have the best ideas, but those ideas are only best if they are filtered and they are people-based. In fact, I was talking to Mazima here. I said, Kabuleta's reasoning worse than President Trump when it comes to issues of this sickness, because actually you cannot say that the so-called virus, in other words, you are saying this virus does not exist. But also you are saying that people who have lost, even in Uganda here, we have people who have lost their relatives, who have lost family members, who have lost their loved ones. Actually, you'll be very insensitive to say that that disease does not exist, and whoever has lost a person has been bribed to say so. I think genuinely there are people who have died from this virus. So as a leader, I think we expect him to be more conscious and more respectful and more sincere, but also sensitive to the feelings and the realities in this country. Of course, he has Kyagulanyi also. He has spent a lot, I think 70% of his time has been spent trying to discuss what others failed to do or what others have done. And least of the time has been committed to his program of what he is going to do for the people of Uganda. So much so that you now, as a listener or as a voter, you fail to understand this man. Is he quarreling on behalf of the people of Uganda for the injustices that have been the Ugandans have been subjected to, or does he want Ugandans to what does he want Ugandans to do? In other words, to avert the situation. So that his presentation is leaving Ugandans with more questions. To me, I think more than answers that have been provided.
Okay, well, I think that's very important that you're getting us to here. We have had an opportunity to stay here the whole day and to listen to the candidates here. And you see, what is so surprising is I asked myself a question that had Kabuleta, had he got the opportunity to speak first before President Museveni, what did Kabuleta have to tell us? Because I think much of his speech was a response to the NRM candidate's speech yesterday when he talked about COVID and of course other things. But yet again also, at this stage where you've been nominated, yesterday, Ndugu Bariamureba here, Professor Bariamureba said, you have the opportunity now to actually let the people know, hear from you, what really is going to inform your campaign. A call from Kabuleta's talk here. Of course, he has just excelled in attacking the personality of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and of course,
not only the personality and the family.
And the family, yes, and the family. Let me hear from you.
Well, I just want to say that Kabuleta reminds me of 2011 when Dr. Olaru Tunu, ambassador, had just come in and was given the UPC flag. And his campaign platform was taking back our country. Now, when you say taking back our country, when really the Obote regime, President Yoweri Museveni has called a regime of shortages, and everything was not in sugar, salt, soap. Actually, there was a shortage of almost everything. Now, when you say taking back our country, you're already scaring those people who actually saw what happened during that time. So when he says, Kabuleta, that he is reversing the 35 years of NRM, truth be told, NRM and President Yoweri Museveni could have their own weaknesses, but at least in 35 years, there's a lot the country has achieved. Actually, he's actually one of the beneficiaries. He's one of the beneficiaries because really during Amin's time, I don't think he would offer himself for president. So when you say reversing 35 years, you're trying to say that actually for the 35 years the country has been stagnant, which is actually not the case. But also the other issue that I also find, he says that this election is about issues. And he has failed to bring out the issues because these are the issues, these are the other issues. Now, of course, and a person of his stature, somebody actually was successfully nominated to be the CEO of Uganda. When you actually also start saying that really COVID, that people are really being paid, I think really that is a sweeping statement. And the other issue is that, yes, he's the second journalist in this race. We have Nancy, we have him, but actually he's not reflecting that. And lastly, he comes with a lot of anger. He comes with a lot of anger, and which is something that may undermine his campaigns, because here in this particular election, you like Waswahili say hasira hasara, you're coming with a lot of anger. So when you are really angry, how are you going to convince people to your side? Because that anger may actually scare away some people. Then the other issue that also comes in, because you see that currently, just world over, opposition parties that have won elections have actually changed the tone. They've changed the tone. They have built bridges. You see in Kenya they say the BBI. The BBI, yes. Building the bridge initiative. They built bridges. They built alliances. They made alliances, and it has helped them come to power. But when you come with saying that we are going to destroy everything, we are going to go back to this, we are going to go to this, then I think really everybody then gets worried and says, yes.
You want to say something?
Yeah, someone, after we discussed last time, someone sent me a message, said, you are talking about political parties, what about independence? If I cannot have a political party, does that mean that I cannot be a leader in this country? But going back to that, you realize that where you have political parties, for example, if Kabuleta came from a political party, the political party would have already nurtured and told him what to say. In other words, you would expect a person at this level to say, we as Ugandans, we need to come together, we need to work together, we need to forget the past. Our future is going to be ABCD like that. That is the person who has come from a background which has a future. But when leaders grow up from people just popping up like a popcorns, they come with a lot of anger. And this is what he's talking about. People are angered by particular issues. If I look at you and I don't like your jacket, when I come here, I'm going to start with that jacket. I don't like that jacket. But there are more other issues that can come up when you look at the political systems, that the political party has issues. Say, then a movement has done ABCD, which they have failed. Now, for us, we're not going to concentrate on what they have failed. We are going to concentrate on what we can do better. Now, when you do that, the failing comes in automatically. People will say, hey, this part failed to ABCD, but I think this will have a better program. And that's why the voters are buying in. They are buying in because of the program you have, which is better articulated than what others are doing or what others have. But voters are buying into manifestos. Like you said, Kabuleta's manifesto, I think it needs a lot if you have to understand it. And you look at some of these candidates, now that after this we have looked at, you can suggest that actually some of them need to be taken for
Okay. Well, you know, when you get back into our history, and you know, we talk about a country, and I'll keep going back to President Dr. Magufuli of Tanzania. Tinga, who actually says, you know, when you are choosing a president of a country, these are very critical, these are very important things. In 2004 July, I think it was at that time when Barack Obama actually appeared for the Democratic Convention in Boston, and the speech that he delivered at that convention there is what is remembered of him as a speech that actually made him president of the United States of America. I do not know whether it is our thing here to actually, you know, prepare for that moment. Now, it's one thing to actually get your documents done. It's another thing to have